I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, gently touching the fresh cut running from my left temple to my cheek. Sarah had gotten me good this time, the crystal vase she'd thrown leaving a deep gash that no amount of concealer could hide completely. Sophia. Mom's sharp voice came through the door. You're going to be late for school pictures. Have you covered it up? I'm trying, I called back, dabbing more makeup over the wound. It stung, but not as much as yesterday when it happened. The bathroom door burst open. Sarah, my older sister and my parents' golden child, leaned against the doorframe with that familiar smirk. Still can't cover my artwork, little sis. I stayed silent, focusing on my reflection. At 16, I learned that responding only made things worse. Sarah, 2 years older and infinitely more favored, had been marking me since we were children. It started with pinches, escalated to pushes, and now, well, the vase was just her latest creative expression. Girls, Mom appeared behind Sarah, already looking exasperated. Sophia, stop dawdling. Sarah, help your sister fix her makeup. We can't have her ruining the family photos with that incident. Incident, that's what they call it now. Like when Sarah broke my fingers last year, a door accident, or when she pushed me down the stairs. Clumsy teenager, or when she burned my arm with her straightener. Sisters sharing beauty tools. Sarah grabbed the concealer from my hands. Here, let me do it. I'm better at covering things up anyway. Her fingers pressed hard against the cut, making me wince. Mom watched from the doorway, nodding approvingly as the evidence of yesterday's violence slowly disappeared under layers of makeup. Remember, Mom said quietly, if anyone asks. I walked into a door, I recited dully, I know, Mom. The drive to school was tense. Dad had already left for work, conveniently avoiding another morning of pretending everything was normal. He perfected the art of absence whenever Sarah's incidents occurred. In the school parking lot, Mom turned to face me, straight to the photographer, then class. No talking to counselors today. I nodded, remembering last month when the guidance counselor, Ms. Martinez, had started asking too many questions about my accidents. Sarah had made sure I learned my lesson of getting adults involved. The school gymnasium had been transformed into a photo studio. Students lined up in their best outfits, practicing smiles and fixing hair. I kept my head down, letting my long dark hair partially cover the left side of my face. Sophia Bennett, the photographer, called. He was new this year, not the usual local guy who'd photographed our family for years and knew better than to ask questions. I sat on a stool, arranging myself carefully. The photographer, a man in his 40s with kind eyes, adjusted his camera. Can you move your hair back, please? He asked. We want to see your beautiful face. Reluctantly, I tucked my hair behind my ears. Through his viewfinder, I saw his expression change. He lowered the camera slowly. Hold on a moment, he said, reaching for his phone. I need to check something. Panic rose in my throat. Please, it's nothing. I just had an accident. He looked at me steadily. I've been a forensic photographer for 20 years before switching to school portraits. That cut, it has a distinct pattern I've seen before. From thrown objects, usually crystal or glass. My hands started shaking. Behind me, I could hear other students shuffling, waiting their turn. I walked into a door. I whispered, but my voice cracked. He picked up his camera again, but instead of taking my school photo, he took several close-ups of the cut, barely visible under the makeup. No, he said quietly, you didn't. And I'm guessing this isn't the first time, is it? Tears welled up in my eyes, causing the concealer to run slightly, revealing more of the angry red line beneath. My sister. I started then stopped, years of conditioning kicking in. The photographer nodded, understanding in his eyes. You don't have to say anything else. But I do have to report this. It's not just my job. It's the right thing to do. As he reached for his phone again, I saw Sarah watching from the gymnasium entrance, her face twisted in fury. Mom stood beside her, already pulling out her own phone, probably to call Dad. The photographer saw them too. He positioned himself between me and the door, speaking quietly into his phone. For the first time in years, someone was finally seeing the truth behind the perfect family photos. Within 15 minutes, the gymnasium became a storm center. Ms. Martinez arrived first, her face tight with concern as she saw my partially revealed injury. Mom burst in right after, Sarah trailing behind with her perfectly practiced worried sister expression. There's been a misunderstanding, Mom announced, her social mask firmly in place. Sophie had an accident yesterday. We were going to have it checked after school. The photographer, Mr. Collins, I learned from his ID badge, stood his ground. Mrs. Bennett, I've documented domestic violence cases for 2 decades. That cut has a distinct pattern consistent with thrown crystal or glass objects. Sarah stepped forward, tears suddenly appearing in her eyes. I would never hurt my sister. We're best friends. But Mr. Collins was already showing Ms. Martinez something on his camera's display screen. Not just today's photos, but others he pulled up from his forensic photography days. See the similarity in the laceration patterns? Mom's hand gripped my shoulder painfully. Sophia, tell them about the door accident. I looked at the 4 adults now surrounding me, Mr. Collins, Ms. Martinez, Mom, and the school nurse who just arrived. For years, I'd repeated the lies, covered the wounds, and played my part in our family's performance. But something in Mr. Collins's steady gaze gave me courage. The crystal vase, I said quietly, my voice trembling. The one Grandma gave us. Sarah threw it at me because I scored higher on my sets. The grip on my shoulder became brutal, but I kept going. She broke my fingers last year with the piano lid, pushed me down the stairs at the mall 3 months ago, burned my arm with her straightener in June. Each word felt like breaking free from a chain. There are pictures on my phone. I've been documenting everything. Sarah's fake tears dried instantly. She's lying. She's always been jealous of me. Ms. Martinez pulled out her tablet. Actually, I've been keeping my own documentation. Every accident, every suspicious injury, every time Sophia flinched when her sister came near. She turned to Mom. We've called the police. Mom's face went white. You can't. We're a respectable family. Respectable families don't cover up abuse, Mr. Collins said firmly, still standing between me and Sarah. The gymnasium had emptied of other students, but I could see faces pressed against the windows. Our family's perfect facade was cracking in front of the whole school. I have more proof, I said, my voice stronger now. Hidden cameras in my room. After the stairs incident, I bought them with my tutoring money. Everything's uploaded to a cloud account. Sarah lunged forward suddenly, her mask completely gone. You little snitch. I'll show you what happens to. She never finished her threat. 2 police officers walked in, followed by Dad, who must have been called from work. His face showed no surprise, just resignation. Sarah Bennett? One officer asked. We need you to come with us. Daddy, Sarah wailed, switching back to victim mode. Tell them it's not true. But Dad just looked tired. Enough, Sarah. It's over. As they led my sister away, Mom still gripping my shoulder like a lifeline, Mr. Collins showed me the photos he'd taken. In them, beneath the smeared makeup, you could clearly see not just the current cut but faint scars from previous accidents. School photos usually hide the truth, he said gently. These ones are going to reveal it. You're safe now. Ms. Martinez was already discussing temporary guardianship options with the officers, mentioning my aunt in the next town who'd always watched me with concerned eyes during family gatherings. Mom finally released my shoulder, her hand falling limply to her side. We were just trying to keep the family together, she whispered. No, I replied, finding strength in my voice. You were trying to keep your illusion together. There's a difference. Dad stepped forward, looking at my face, really looking, for the first time in years. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I should have stopped this long ago. The nurse was examining my cut now, talking about proper medical documentation and treatment. But I hardly heard her. I was watching Mr. Collins pack up his camera, the tool that had finally broken through years of enforced silence. Thank you, I told him, for seeing what everyone else chose to ignore. He smiled sadly. Sometimes the camera captures more truth than people are ready to see. But today it captured exactly what needed to be revealed. The following weeks transformed my life completely. Sarah was admitted to a psychiatric facility after a thorough evaluation revealed deep-seated issues beyond her violence toward me. Mom and Dad faced criminal charges for years of covering up the abuse, and I moved in with Aunt Claire, who cried when she saw the full documentation of what had been happening. I always suspected, she said, holding me close, but they were so good at making everything look perfect. The school became a surprising source of support. Students who had once whispered about my clumsiness now came forward with their own observations. Emily, a girl from my chemistry class, shared videos she'd taken of Sarah threatening me in the hallways. The basketball team captain admitted he'd seen Sarah push me down the stairs at the mall, but had been too uncertain to report it. Mr. Collins's photos became part of the official investigation. He testified at the hearing, his expertise as a former forensic photographer lending weight to the case. These injuries tell a story of systematic abuse, he explained to the judge, showing a timeline of my documented injuries. Each one was carefully concealed, but the patterns are unmistakable. 1 month after the school photo incident, I sat in Aunt Claire's kitchen, looking at my reflection in her phone camera. The cut had healed into a faint scar, barely visible unless you knew where to look. But other changes were more apparent. I stood straighter, spoke louder, smiled more freely. The prosecutor called. Aunt Claire said, setting a mug of hot chocolate in front of me. Sarah's doctors recommend long-term treatment. Your parents have agreed to plead guilty to child endangerment. I nodded, feeling strangely calm. And the restraining order? Approved. They can't come within 500 feet of you until you're 18. After that, it's your choice. My phone buzzed with a text from Ms. Martinez. College counselors meeting tomorrow. Several universities are interested in your story. Full scholarship possibilities. Another message followed, this one from Mr. Collins. New photography club starting next semester. Thought you might be interested. Sometimes the best way to heal is to help others see the truth. I touched my scar gently, remembering how makeup once covered not just my injuries but my entire reality. Now, each morning, I looked in the mirror and saw strength instead of secrets. You know what's ironic? I said to Aunt Claire. Sarah always said I was ruining the perfect family photos. But it took a photographer to finally capture the truth and save me. Aunt Claire squeezed my hand. Sometimes the truth hurts before it heals. Later that evening, I opened my laptop and created a new cloud folder titled Moving Forward. Inside, I placed Mr. Collins's photos, not to remember the pain, but to remind myself of the day someone finally saw through the perfect family facade and chose to act. The last photo in a series wasn't of my injury. It was a simple portrait Mr. Collins had taken after everything calmed down. Just me, looking directly into the camera. No makeup, no hiding, no pretense. In my eyes, there was something new. Hope. A text from an unknown number popped up on my phone. Sarah, using a hospital phone. You ruined everything. We could have been the perfect family. I looked at my reflection in the window, at the scar that told my story of survival, and typed back, perfect isn't worth the price of pretending. Get help, Sarah. I'd already have. Then I blocked the number and turned back to my laptop, where Mr. Collins's photography club application waited. Sometimes the best revenge isn't in hiding the truth, but in helping others reveal it. The perfect family photos had shattered, but from the broken pieces, I was building something real, something true, something mine. 6 months after the school photo incident, I stood in front of a different camera. This time, I was speaking at a conference about domestic violence, sharing my story with other survivors. Mr. Collins sat in the audience, his camera capturing these moments of strength rather than concealment. The hardest part wasn't the physical pain, I told the crowd. It was the silence, the makeup, the perfect family photos that hid years of abuse. But now I know, sometimes it takes just one person to break that silence. The changes in my life had been dramatic but healing. Sarah remained in treatment, her doctors discovering years of untreated mental health issues beneath her perfectly maintained exterior. My parents, facing the consequences of their choices, had been sentenced to community service and mandatory counseling. But the biggest changes were within me. Sophia, Ms. Martinez called out after my speech. The scholarship committee is here. They'd like to meet you. I smoothed down my blazer, no longer hiding behind long hair or layers of concealer. The scar on my face had faded to a thin line, a reminder of survival rather than shame. The committee members were from several prestigious universities, drawn not just by my academic record, but by the advocacy work I'd started. The photography club Mr. Collins helped me establish had evolved into a student-run organization documenting and preventing abuse. Your project behind perfect pictures is remarkable, one committee member said. Using photography to help other students recognize and report abuse, it's making a real difference. I thought about the 3 students who'd already come forward, their own stories of hidden violence brought to light through our work. Each time Mr. Collins helped document their evidence, turning his expertise toward protection rather than just exposure. Aunt Claire waited for me after the meeting, beaming with pride. Living with her had shown me what real family support looked like. No masks, no forced perfection, just honest love and acceptance. "Your mother called," she said quietly as we walked to the car. "She's been attending her counseling sessions. Wants to know if you'd consider meeting with her in a supervised setting." I considered it, touching my scar thoughtfully. "Maybe, but not yet. I'm still learning who I am without their version of perfect." That evening, I had a video call with Sarah's therapist. My sister's progress was slow but real, the layers of her own trauma gradually being addressed. "She asked about you," the therapist said. Not in anger this time. She's beginning to understand what she did. I nodded, remembering the last family photo we'd taken before everything changed. All of us smiling, my collar carefully arranged to hide bruises, Sarah's hand gripping my shoulder in warning. "Tell her I'm doing well," I replied, "and that when she's ready to see the real me, not the sister she tried to break, we can talk." Later, I worked on my latest project, a photo essay about survivors. Mr. Collins had taught me how to use a camera to reveal truth rather than hide it. Each image showed strength emerging from darkness, beauty and authenticity rather than perfection. My phone buzzed with messages from the support group I joined. "Your speech today gave me courage to speak up. Thank you for showing us that scars don't define us. You helped me stop hiding." I opened my laptop to finish my college application essay. The prompt asked about a life-changing moment. I wrote about a school photographer who looked through his viewfinder and saw what everyone else had chosen to ignore. "The perfect family portrait shattered that day," I wrote, "but from its broken pieces, I built something stronger, my own truth, my own voice, my own future." A final text came from Mr. Collins. "Next week's photography club topic, capturing truth. Would you like to share your story?" I smiled, touching my scar one last time before replying, "Yes," because sometimes the most powerful images are the ones that show what's really beneath the surface. The sun was setting outside Aunt Claire's house, casting long shadows that reminded me of how far I come from hiding in darkness. Sometimes the deepest wounds heal into the strongest parts of us, and the pictures we're most afraid to show become our most powerful testament to survival.